Hi, I'm Guillermo Vidal, and I wanted to share with you today the dumbest piece of advice I've ever received. Now, you probably have heard a version of it at least, because it's a passage from the Old Testament of the Bible, and it goes like this: an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Sound familiar? Well, it should, because it's so prevalent in so many cultures. What's wrong with it, though, is that what it demands is that you must seek revenge in kind from those who have wronged you. Now I know what you're thinking. What's wrong with seeking to avenge the wrongs that were done to us? And I get it. I understand why you might agree with this concept, for nothing damages our psyche more profoundly than betrayal, abuse, humiliation, and even the abandonment from the people in our lives. These can be life-changing traumas, I know, and they can affect us for years. Understandably, the pain and anger you feel can lead you to want to get even with those who hurt you. But man, after having tried for years to get even with people, it didn't work. I found that it's just not wise to pursue revenge. Confucius, the Chinese philosopher who you've heard about for many, many years, once said about revenge, you embark on a journey of revenge, better be prepared to dig 2 graves. Why does he say that, do you think? The reason is that anger is an unpredictable feeling. It can fuel one to act without thinking about the consequences. Anger can exaggerate your hurt and lead you to plot actions that will only perpetuate more anger and retaliation. One does not end the cycle of anger by extracting revenge from someone. You actually prolong it. If we actually live by the teachings of this dumb advice, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, I assure you will be toothless and blind. A lot of graves will be dug. So what is the alternative? Well, let me tell you a story that you can relate to. There was a time when my brothers and I lived with another 100 boys in an orphanage. And although the orphanage was ran by adults, there was a code of violence that existed among the kids. And the code of honor among those kids too was that you never let anyone strike you without you striking back. Now early on in our stay there, my brother Roberto was brutally beaten by one of the older boys. We had no idea this had taken place until we saw him. And this kid had kicked my brother in the eye so hard that my brother's eye was swollen shut. He actually looked so bad that we feared he would lose his eye. The 3 of us set out to find this bully, and when we did, we extracted the revenge we were after. But the cycle did not stop there. A few hours after our triumphant attack, roughly 24 boys from the orphanage surrounded the 3 of us and proceeded to beat the living shit out of us using chains and baseball bats to avenge what had happened to their friend. Our revenge cycle had now grown, and had we continued it, it's hard to know where it would have ended up. We found that Confucius was right when seeking revenge. Prepare to dig 2 graves, or for that matter, many graves. As an adult, I have seen the damage those seeking revenge have done to themselves, their families, their communities, and yes, also to those they aim to destroy. But you got to ask yourself, was it worth it? The answer is always no. I've learned that when seeking revenge, a person vibrates at such an irrational and negative frequency that he or she will doom not only the persons they seek to hurt, but also themselves and their future prospects. So what is the alternative? Become an instrument of peace. I know you're going, okay, so how does one do that? Well, to become an instrument of peace, you must first accept that everyone, including the most hateful person you've encountered, was somehow doing the best they knew how. You have to realize that just like you, they were born innocent. And like you, they were formed by their experiences, the people in their lives, and the environments they lived in. But be clear, living as an instrument of peace does not require you to allow abusers to continue to steamroll over you. Nor does it make you joyful and grateful for the bruises and broken bones, both figuratively and emotionally, you receive from them. But rather than taking revenge out on them, being an instrument of peace requires you to stand up against injustice, speak truth to power, challenge those who would hurt others, and become a teacher who inspires others to stand up for peace. An instrument of peace knows that staying silent against injustice and violence will open the door to the suffering and destruction of our civilization. The difference, though, between this and the path of revenge is that you take this action free of the desire to retaliate against those who did you harm. You're acting because you believe in the righteousness of your cause and not because you wish for their eye or tooth of another in return. One cannot age fearlessly if they have revenge in their heart. Revenge is a monster that will eat you up inside and zap you of your desire to create a greater world. This is why I think it is so stupid to require an eye for an eye, etc. It's like trading civilization for our Neanderthal beginnings. It makes no sense. To live your best life, move on from your past. Learn the lesson your experiences taught you, but let go of your anger and hatred for others over what was done or not done to you. This is actually a prerequisite necessary if you want to live your best life.